Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, with that, the motion passes. We'll move on to additions or deletions from the agenda. Does anyone have something they'd like to add? Adam?
Are the late additions that Scott sent this morning?
It's just part of what's already the conversation. It's not a new topic, right?
All right, so we'll move on to staff reports and updates.
Okay, I'll try to be brief because I know we have a lot going on tonight. Mountain bike trail, there's nothing to update yet. We're still working with the DNR and getting all of the paperwork together. We're hoping to be the bids by now, but we're not, so hopefully more to come soon. We do have 2 new members tonight. Courtney,
Yes.
you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Courtney Clark, with the DNR Wildlife out of Tower. And then been a Ely resident for like 3.5 years.
Do you know everybody in this room or no?
No.
Well, just you guys.
Alyssa Richards, I'm the rep from the college.
Jen Wilson, I'm the rep from the school board.
Jill Swanson, I'm the rep from Ely Community Resource.
Kristen Anthony, I'm just a town resident. Tara Burst, also just a town resident.
Adam Disby, just a council liaison.
Scott over the staff person, and then Tim is the other one. He might be coming to the door now. Steve Toddy, I don't know if you know who Steve. Steve isn't here right now. I would say he's always kind of a wild card.
Yeah, he's not full.
Yeah. When Jim shows up, we can introduce him, I guess. Okay, kayak dock. There's some movement going on with Myers Lake. It sounds like today, from what I was told, fishing together. The older fishing gear is being moved, in the process of being moved down to the other end. We have to create what's called a bulkhead to attach that kayak dock to. So basically, we have to pour concrete and then we have to run bolts and things through that. So we met last week when we wrote the plans on that, so they've been spearheaded forward with that. Some projects just can't start yet because of road restrictions, so they're kind of working on that. So we've had some better weather now this week to work on that. So, the next couple of weeks, if you want to see what's going on down there, check out the east end of Myers Lake. We're in the parking lot. So good things to come. CPL restoration grant, so it did actually include starts on page 4. Yeah, just kind of as a refresher. So basically, area on page 7 circled in red along Miners Drive there, Miners Lake, the Trizona Trail. Basically taking out invasive species, grassland area, and that'll be prairie restoration. So we can get the area mowed that we need to get mowed next week in early part of June. That'll start. So there was a grant award. The bid was awarded to a company for that. And then 8 and on kind of tells you what different types of species.
Sorry, I just got off work.
Oh, you're fine.
Councilor.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
You want to just introduce yourself, quick?
I'm Tim Cook. I'm a special ed teacher at Bldg, and I love being outdoors, and so I was hoping to get a position. See if I can follow it.
We're glad to have you.
Sit there. Let's see. So all some of the different species of plants and things like that's included in there. There will be, I know some questions kind of arose as far as, are people going to know what's going on because they're going to spread herbicides and things like that. So part of the bid for the project is having public notification and things like that, so there will be signs and public notification of what's going on. But yeah, it'll be nice to kind of rejuvenate that space, and this is hopefully phase 1 of many other projects around Miners Lake. So we're trying to get rid of that invasive the buckthorn too in certain areas. So there's some other grants that we're looking at potentially doing, I think that's what I have, page 18, there's some other stuff. So been working a lot with North St. Louis County Soil and Water, and where they've really been spearheading a lot of this. So hopefully we'll see more of that. So that'll be good. So community gardens, I know Jill with ECR, they've been helping with that. If anybody saw that, but if there's anybody willing to help, it sounds like it's just an aging population that's working with that group. So I'm just really looking for some new blood to come in and help. And they really do a good job of taking care of all those spaces just because we don't have the city staff and resources to do that. So yeah, if anybody else has any questions on that.
Were they out there today? I saw them on the day.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Everything should really be blooming now with the warmer weather, finally some sunshine below or above freezing. So, yeah. A couple other quick notes. The city completed the park inspection, so all the playground equipment, things like that, they're required to do that anyway, so that was all good. Let's see, the grills, they sent it to locate, so those should hopefully be going in Whiteside Park soon. Should be nice. And then hopeful for the water in the facility, so the bathrooms actually have running water here in the next week or so. So again, we were kind of sitting waiting on the weather for that.
Scott, we talked about the water fountain at Whiteside. It's pretty old. This was a topic discussed last summer.
Yeah.
And is that something we want to add to new business for a later agenda to seek out perhaps a replacement or find a sponsor that can offer up a bottle filling station slash fountain?
We can do some research and bring something forward. How about that?
That sounds good.
Otherwise, Jill's ECR information is in the packet, unless you have anything else to update. That's what I got, that's not on the agenda. For those that didn't know, Eva Sebesta sat on this committee. She recently retired, so then she felt the need to not serve on the committee. So that's why we have two new members, not just one. Question? It's been busy and it's really going to get busier, so which is good.
All right, well, with that, we'll move on to requests to appear. I have Margaret Egan, the Trailhead Bldg.
Can you go here?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Margaret Egan, co-chair of the Ely Heritage Preservation Commission, and I'm joined this evening by co-chair Pam Turnbull. May I have about 3 minutes to go through my materials, and will you be able to ask questions or excellent? All right. I'm not sure I just need these materials to Scott today, but I'll start with presentation materials, and then I think the pictures really start to give everyone a feel of what we're talking about. Ely Heritage Preservation Commission has been charged by the council with putting together what's called the display plan for the trailhead. And this is really a recommendation to do that no later than June 1st. And we want to give the park board an opportunity because we were very much on the edge of the recommendation because ultimately it probably will be park-like site down there. So on the first page, on the cover page, one of the things, and this has really been, I found the project very interesting. So it's been an opportunity for discovery, and one of the things that, as we put the recommendation together, what you see tonight are just high-level things that we've come up with. We've not o'clock till 6 p.m. Ultimately, we hope there's opportunity to expand those hours to at least in daytime hours. Every time we talk to the participants, it's like, again, they really inspired us, is, the access is really important. One of the key features of the building is bathroom. So, and then another call out here on the theme is we've come to understand this really is, this is probably going to be a gathering place, not just for visitors, but also for community. Pam and I did several interviews down at the building, and during that time we were there, the drop-ins are not all visitors. There's community members who are stopping by to look at it, to pick up materials. So again, that was really eye-opening for us. Under style, some of the things, this actually, the first item on style came from Adam. We had an opportunity to interview Adam on behalf of the Park and Rec Board. And these were some of his words: keep the premises authentic with limit on extraneous decor materials. And, what that really means, we're continuing to try to define, but ultimately it's going to be a building that you don't want to have a garden there. You don't want to have materials damaged. It really is a working space for the public. So that's something that we're, again, trying to make sure comes through in display plan. Another item that came up is, this is a brand new public site, and to really stretch and make sure that as we do anything that might be changes, that we really embrace ADA standards to the highest level possible. to digest.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of process where some things seem like really, to me, like just off the cuff, like a good long-term goals, and like I'd be curious on like what our financial status would be to even invest in having a more high-tech type TV interactive thing for people. I don't really know what our spare or our city could provide with some of those things. Where like definitely like the more immediate getting that the kiosk over there so we can get the signage out there. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot of information. What would you like to add?
The kiosk, I think we were told maybe around middle of June or so, because you had to wait
Okay.
for things to happen. And I think because we did have a meeting with Harold too, and when we were talking about some of these things, and so like the financial constraints, he recommended just put it out there and take it to the city council and see where things can go, because it is a city property, and I don't think because it is kind of a joint thing right now too, that we're, like Margaret said, we're hoping to hand this off, that if Parks and Rec is going to be overseen, especially outside, it's interior, and we're trying to get things laid out so that everybody knows what's what.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ideas. And I like that you brought up the hours, especially during the summer, because if we work and you want to go bike and use the trail, then if we can't use that after 6, like maybe we can set it with the daylight schedule or something along those lines.
Because one of the things with signage too that was brought to our attention by one of the groups we were meeting with, it's like if you put stuff in those lockers in the bathroom and you're out on the trail and the building is locked, I mean, we gotta have signage that tells you how to use those lockers and that this building will close, so you gotta make sure you have your stuff out by a certain time. So it's just little things like that we didn't think about all of those things, but having the input from these different groups has really been beneficial.
Yeah, you guys did a really good job gathering all this information.
Thank you, because we have put a lot of time into it.
Yeah, I think one of the things when we first started talking about putting this trail building in was like, let's get it in, let's have it sit, see what happens, digest it for a year or two to see like how it plays out, and then eventually we're going to be putting in all this little stuff that you guys are talking about. So that seems to be how it's kind of working out. It's kind of how we thought about it a couple years ago. This was initially going in, and nobody really knew when it was going in. So it's one of those things where we had a long conversation about we're not rushing in and just slapping stuff up on the walls. We're not rushing in and just putting anything up in there. We're kind of digesting things and putting things in as it makes sense. So we're not just putting stuff up and then taking stuff down, putting it over here and then taking it down, putting it up here and taking it. So I think that's kind of where this is heading now that it's open for not quite a year.
Right.
So
But here we are, it's almost summer.
Yeah.
And so let's have as much done as we can. And part of the reason that we got involved too is because the cowboy mural that we were having recreated again, we wanted, because the intent was to have that mural in that building long ago. And so taking those steps so that we could get that in there, because it really is a signature piece for Ely. And so making sure that's kind of a centerpiece for that and everything else can go along with that.
And by the way, on the Galway, did recently receive a grant, a $2,000 grant to help with that installation.
Margaret applied for that, and we're fortunate to get it. Yes, ma'am.
To build on what Elizabeth was saying, we've got, I'm looking at the pictures 1 and 4 here, and this is a sitting bench in picture 4, isn't it?
Yeah, it is
That's,
possibly, in certain cases, one might sit on it.
so it's
Not with all the stuff
can
on
not
it.
put all the
So
stuff
it's a
on.
bench for
Right,
everyone.
so what,
The chambers will
To have it.
right, and well, this is just part of where I'm going with this.
It came from the chamber. The chamber had that bench, that's why they're using it.
Okay, but back to the point of putting things where they may not necessarily belong. I understand that one of the HPC members has a background in architectural design. And what sort of comments did she have in regards to, say, the bench, or in picture 1, the rotating brochure rack in front of that opening to the fireplace area. Now, I assume that when the architects designed this building, that serves a function or an intention. And to block that or create a display case there would not align with what that intention was. And
I don't know if they really knew what the intention was, and when this building was built, it was built as the trailhead. It wasn't necessarily the visitor center. So there was an accommodation made for accommodating for that, I guess. So that's why now we're kind of having to back the truck up here and figure out how can we use the space that we have.
So
to
my
the
question
best of
is,
the ability.
did your other member
She
have?
hasn't weighed in on all of this since we've done our interviews with and gotten all of our surveys back from our different groups.
She has.
No, she
Okay,
hasn't.
but she will, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd be interested in hearing her perspective on some of these elements and function and design, just so that we can carefully approach the design and layout, as you had mentioned, not to put the cart in front of the horse here.
We also are gifted with our marketing and design expert as one of our commission members. So I think we've got incredible talent.
When it comes to putting things on that interactive screen, it's going to be a big help.
Additional questions?
Yeah, I guess, so you're heavily considering you're going to do ADA accessible items, or, so I just see that like the display and brochures probably aren't reachable for people that have those disabilities, so that's just one item.
And can you, which picture do you think is a very good example?
Even just those really tall cases, one or three,
And
just within reach, I guess, those like low and high.
For example, that rotating freestanding one, it's really tall.
Yes, and potentially like that lowest rung might not be.
Tell us about, I think you did a call out of picture 3.
Same thing, just the height and.
I think that's why the chamber in the space that they're using where the vending machines are slated to go, they did put things down low so that it would be reachable. But they were just using what they had.
But that's again as we modify.
Right.
It's a wonderful opportunity to improve the experience for everyone.
Yep, and then along those same lines,
Yes.
have you considered like visually impaired people, like colorblindness, like for your marketing materials?
It will be noted right now.
That's why we like this input, because everyone has some different perspectives. And you just have things from your own perspective. And so, it's great things to hear.
Additional comments? Questions?
You said that it's due June 1st to the council. What are you envisioning for the final project? Or do you have like proposed items and display plans, like a layout for the building?
Yes, and then also we're going to have what we call priority 1 and priority 2. And I don't want to jump to the conclusions because we haven't met as a group, but probably something like that pavilion would be a priority 2. This also then starts to move a little bit towards making sure that we sequence things in a way that can be delivered, but also affordable. So that's probably how we'll have a column, a 1 and a 2 column.
Any other questions? Or feedback? Well, I really appreciate you guys presenting to us. This is a lot of good information.
And June 1st is coming up quickly.
Okay.
It is. Very quick. Trying to get our ducks in a row.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up for request to appear, I have Frederica Musgrave.
I'm Frederica Musgrave. I live at 30 West Shagawa Road, and I think most of you probably have seen me. And I don't want to apologize, but I want to let you know I tend to be direct and very passionate, especially when it comes to native habitats and birds. And I have been talking to Park and Rec, Planning and Zoning, City Hall since 2023 regarding natural habitats, zoning and protecting them. I'll say I'm more into buildings than, excuse me, I'm more into living things, the reasons why I came here rather than buildings. And I'm here because I'm not really clear on the priorities of Park and Rec. It's a great group. I videotaped you previously with the commission and stuff, and I know you are very caring about the community and nature. But I don't know where the priority is, and I've talked before here about that because there are clauses in the 2016 comprehensive plan saying that there should be goals and objectives to protect open spaces and natural habitats. I haven't seen anything. And I've gone to public hearings, that is to say, board of, BOA meetings regarding changes in ordinances, and things are allowed because there doesn't seem to be clear standards on how to protect the shoreline and a few other things. This is back in 2023, and I knew more and more development is coming. And the reason why I'm here today, because I prefer doing other things, is on May 20th there is a public hearing regarding some changes on Sandy Point. Sorry, my mind flashes back on a whole bunch of things. And I do want to show you again, back in 2023, Bill Teff was talking about zoning and open spaces and stuff in front of Park and Rec. It's recorded. Okay, on Sandy Lake, Sandy Point, that is a bird viewing area. I don't know if you guys, I hope to pass around. Bill Teff had a flyer back in 2014 talking about the 10 favorite birding places in Ely. A lot of people haven't seen it. I know it's in the Trailhead now. But basically, the planning and zoning and the changes, ordinance changes going through, no one's looked at this map or the other things in the comp plan and codes, what have you. People are more interested in fishes than they are in birding. I came here for birding. Anyway, this exists, and the reason why I'm talking about that, yes?
Can you pass that?
Yeah, please, I was going to do that, yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so I have a few other things too. And so, I want to explain, and you probably already know because you understand nature, when something is a bird viewing site, and for instance, this is a DNR parking lot, you don't wait for the birds on the birding site. You look not only in the water for the aquatic birds, but you look for the birds in the trees and the grounds and the bushes. Okay? Sandy Point is a bird viewing site because of the peninsula. Sandy Point is on Chaparral Lake. If you're not acquainted with it, it's on the map. It's east of the Jug. There's a DNR loading dock there. I got info from Sherry Apps, who is our loon expert, kind of a loony lady. I'm not going to read everything, I'm going to pass it by. But she says here, I want you to know, Shagawa had very low reproductive success and was much below the national average. Minnesota DNR and loon researchers state that disturbance of a shoreline is detrimental to loon families. Loons need shoreline for nesting. When we disturb natural shorelines by adding new buildings, we disturb bird habitats and we denigrate water clarity. Loons are visual hunters and need clear water. Shagawa Lake is already far below the national average. Last year, only 2 chicks survived out of 10 loon families. It's pretty low. Okay, and it's not just boat traffic. Sandy Point is a spot where birders do their annual bird counts. Okay, this is an important area. What the problem is here is since 2023, Bill Taft, I, and perhaps others have talked about, please look at the zoning, the coding, and also set up some goals and objectives to protect natural habitats and open spaces. That video is online and other ones. And I haven't seen that. The same thing, I'm coming here because I don't know what your role is in changing things. Hopefully you can take a role, a more active role. Because you are advocates not only for the people, the entertainment and building buildings, but also for keeping the natural habitat here. For people like me who come birding. There's nothing you just saw in birding, nothing against the Trailhead or HPC. There's nothing for birding. If you look on the Chamber of Commerce, Ely webpage, tourism, there's nothing, anything more about birding. Some general think, oh, there's an eagle flying up there in the air. We know that. What about the other ones? Okay, so basically, what is your role in protecting them, setting up some guidelines to recommend for the comp plan and planning and zoning? What is your role? And not only that, identifying bird viewing sites. There's nothing there. There is a little loom sign on Sandy Point. You know, be careful of looms or whatever it was. I took a picture and I'll post it. Nothing else. So no one really knows. The other thing at Sandy Point, and again, I don't know what your role is. Sandy Point was Ojibwa village. No one seems to have known it. I didn't know it until I talked to people about birding. It was an Ojibwa settlement, and I've been doing research. Here's a picture. It was Chief Beard Reese's village. The Ojibwa were there before. They've been here for a long, long time. I just met with 2 people today because I'm researching this. I won't tell you everything that they told me because the public hearing is on May 20th. But basically, I have people telling me their burial sites at Sandy Point. Can't get them to put it in writing, specific spot. The indigenous were there. That is to say, the Ojibwa. They were there. There's nothing on the Chamber of Commerce, on tourism, or anywhere else in Ely saying that that was a village. It's erasure. Okay? Sorry if I'm emotional. I am. It's very upsetting to hear about that. There's nothing. No recognition. And basically, there are rental properties on there, and the plan and the hearing is to put in more, well, boat house storage, and I won't go into the details, but what I want to say about birding is that boat launches, human activities, construction, and noise are detrimental to birds. And I'm going to post some pictures. I didn't have time. I ran out of white paper. I've been printing so much. And you can see what is already developed there does not promote nature. It's a resort. They're rental properties. What you have to do in the future, I don't know, but what I want to recommend to you is to consider at some point if something has been designated as an Ojibwa site, a village here. What's your responsibilities in Park and Rec? If we find a burial site there, how do you get involved in that? I don't have the answers, okay? There are other people, DNR, the state. I've talked to people, emailed people at Fort. I'm not certain how much they're going to get involved. And there's a history of things, and this is a big political mess, or it could be. And people they don't want to necessarily get involved with the history. The documents are there, and there's more research to be done on that. But what's your role in putting up signs? You're going to put up a sign for a rock, Little Rock, and Big Rocks. But there was a village there. And we all know, I think, the history of how Native Americans were treated. People don't want to mention the fact they existed. I'm looking at the documents, and what I see in the documents on May 20th is that there was a seaport, white history. White history is important. What about indigenous history? What is your attitude? I don't know if you have anything on your priorities, not only for natural habitats, but also in recognition of the people who were here before the whites came. And I want to read one thing, last thing, sorry. Anton Troyer wrote a book, Everything You Want to Know About It. Indians Are Afraid to Ask. I got it at Wild Fork. It's a recommended book, actually. And it's, what's the point of land acknowledgement? I'm not asking you to read a statement. because, as I say, a statement isn't enough. A good land acknowledgement will be local and specific, mentioning by name the tribes who have called the land in that area home. Ojibwa, Ojibwa, Ojibwa. I look around in Ely in the literature, indigenous, Ojibwa, Ojibwa, Ojibwa. Think of that. Okay? Land acknowledgement should also acknowledge historical injustice, which we're not doing. And it will make a call to action for the institution or group. So if we don't do it, Anton Toyer says, I support land acknowledgements because they address indivisibility and marginalization of indigenous people. But the real trick is to make sure we don't stop there. Acknowledgement is a first step, not the end of the journey. If it isn't followed up with real action, a statement is just performative. We need to work towards equity, inclusion, and empowerment of Native people in everything we do. What's your goal? I don't know. What's your priority? Buildings? Natural habitat? Ojibwa? I don't know. That's for you to figure out. Thank you.
Thank you, Frederica. Does anyone have any questions for Frederica?
We've actually, since 2023, when we had this discussion with Bill, who has never really followed up with us. Bill's not super good at that. We've had the discussion of zoning, right? We've been to meetings. We've had the discussion of what the natural areas that we have, the grasslands that we have, the wetlands that we have. We've had those further discussions with the zoning and planning committee as well. So,
I think Frederica is providing a lot of persuasive information as a call to action, but I'm not sure what sort of authority we have over non-public lands. And I'd like to hear more about. There's a lot of great information here, a lot of history and a lot of environmental concerns. And I'd just like to know the specifics on what's, give us some background here, Scott, because I'm not sure if everybody knows the full story of this hearing and what the intentions of the landowner are.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the weeds on Park and Rec and a non-Park and Rec related issue because we have a lot of other issues to get into. But the information is on our website as far as what the hearing is about. And actually anything that would be of historical significance would go through HPC, which actually there's a chapter in the zoning code that addresses historical preservation sites in conjunction with planning and zoning. So the planning and zoning side of things, this would be a historical preservation / planning and zoning collaboration, not a Park and Rec.
In regards to the birding information, is there maybe a digital format to the brochure that we could put?
yeah, it's on the Ely tour.
It's on, could we also add it to our Parks and Rec page? Since we're gonna have all those spots as an option. And then, I don't know if there's a way, like, if the sites are like officially designated or if they're just like recognized, if that's, I don't know as much about the birding, to be honest.
I don't think Bill designated on there, just his top 10 sites that he picked in 2014. He made that brochure.
Okay.
But they're not like, there's no sign that says this is site number 8.
Okay.
There's nothing like that out there.
Right, there's no official designation, but there's lots of there's a lot of information acknowledging the importance of that area to the wildlife. And I mean, we don't have any authority over wildlife at all either. So is there anything Parks and Rec can do as far as,
Well, we've had the conversation about all those green spaces that are still left out there. We've had the conversations of like, if somebody wants to put something in one of those areas, it comes to us where we can say, no, we want to keep that natural.
but this
We've
is,
had those conversations of like, no, we don't want to touch that area, we want to keep it in its natural state for the native species or the plants or the birds or whatever we think is going to be happening naturally in that area.
that's
But
public
there's not,
land.
but there's, that's,
My
yeah, this
suggestion
is
is,
privately owned, so I don't, like, we have really no say in anything that's going on at Sandy's. It's all privately owned stuff, minus the boat launch.
my suggestion is, since this isn't an agenda item, is to take in the information and want to discuss it further.
After the public hearing?
Again, I personally don't, that aspect doesn't fall in the Park and Rec.
Right.
It's not public land. You could talk about the public boat landing, which we don't own, which is owned by the DNR.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But, I mean, HPC doesn't necessarily oversee parks, but, you know, they've.
no, but if there's anything of historical value or historical preservation, if there needs to be a historical preservation of a piece of land that goes through HPC, which goes through the planning commission.
No, I'm just saying, the precedent has been established that other boards and committees are now able to
Expand their scope of their duties.
expand the scope of their duties, yes. I think that was made clear last month.
Yeah, I think, it's like the way it was written, they have the tours and stuff right in there, whatever. So, but I think we narrowed down kind of our Park and Rec purview. I just don't want the other stuff to get lost, but I think it can certainly be an item of topic in another meeting when we have more information and have a discussion.
Take your comment?
Yeah, one thing. I don't really want you to argue, you know, the hearing, okay? But to me, it's the idea that you haven't set up within Park and Rec a priority, and then the details on that for promoting pollinators, promoting natural areas. You don't really have anything there, and you really haven't discussed indigenous. That is to say, the Ojibwe. I know I looked in the comp plan previously and did word searches, and like indigenous, native, Indian, what have you, doesn't exist in the comp plan. Maybe it should be, and again, that's not necessarily your area, but in a lot of places, when we do come across indigenous land, what have you, Park and Rec has taken a role in that, and in some cities they have. It's for you to think about. I mean, the other is something done. The other is what was discussed at zoning meetings and possibly Park and Rec is when the land can't be used for a building, then we'll designate it as public land and open space, basically, the leftovers. Birds and animals don't go to a space saying, oh, the humans left it for us. They go to a space for shelter, for food, nesting, what have you. Okay, and that's what I'm saying is a priority on looking at that and making recommendations. And look through all the stuff you've done and talked about. Birding isn't mentioned.
Yes.
Birding isn't mentioned. And it is a hobby for a lot of people, tourists, seniors like myself, just in general, and I won't go on that because I put that on my webpage and stuff. But it is a healthy hobby. You want to encourage it. Again, looking through everything you look at, please.
Thank you.
Think of those things.
Yeah.
Thank you. I talk too much, I know.
No, you're
I
fine.
think this could just be an additional item
Yeah,
that you
I
discuss
think
our
we should.
goals and, I mean, really, it
Like
falls in lines with,
later tonight?
probably later tonight.
Okay.
Review goals and objectives, it's on the old business, so it's something to.
But the
make sure
public hearing is May 20th, right? And then it goes to the council before our next.
Doesn't go to.
After the public hearing, it goes back to P&Z that makes the
Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustment. Yeah, right, so, and then they approve or not.
But we don't have jurisdiction over
Right.
private land, is what we've already discussed.
Right, but we do have the authority to make recommendations to the council, because that's all we are as a committee that can make a recommendation.
About private land.
Yeah, but
We can make
this
recommendations.
discussion,
Anything
that
that
specific
takes-
example is a completely different discussion. There's not any information in this packet regarding that, so I would suggest not making anything related to that.
So we can add this to our agenda next month and discuss it further? Or
Well, it depends. I think everything is going really into the weeds, and I think I think when it comes to discussions and it talks about comp plan and about our goals and objectives, incorporating these other things into these decisions and help making sure that we're making those decisions based off of that. I think that's what the prime overall example of this is.
Yeah, and I definitely think, like I was saying earlier, we should add, like, to provide the bird pamphlet, like, we could put some of those things under our website, and so that would encourage people, but I don't know
Yeah, it's,
what more.
and it's just like the trailhead. It's like you have somebody come, hey, can you include this week? Can you?
Yeah.
You have a lot of groups that do that. We have
Yeah.
people that sell their own product per se.
Yeah, the stuff.
I just don't want this topic to get kind of, we're kind of, we've taken this topic and spread it way out in too many places right now.
Well,
That's fine.
it's already on the
Yeah.
chamber website.
Okay.
Under things to do, attractions, tours, click on Bill's
Okay.
link, and it'll pop up as
So
a
it's,
PDF.
it's out there.
Yeah, it's been out there for years.
But if you want to look at the material for the public hearing and come to the public hearing next week,
And that's
everybody is more than welcome to
for
come.
everybody. So should we then move on to our new business? All right, the Blueberry Arts event.
So, just with our new event process that we came up with through ordinance. Now everybody annually, even if it's an event that's been on for 30 years or first year, they have the event license to fill out. So, as you can see, we have two separate agenda items, but Blueberry and Harvest Moon. It's pretty standard, nothing's changed really. It's more just now we're actually having the actual application submitted and what they're requesting. Yeah.
Do we need like a motion or anything to,
I would just say it would be a recommendation to approve the application.
any recommendations?
I recommend on, was it Blueberry Arts last year where the garbage cans were overflowing? Would you recall, or was that our farmer's market? It was an issue and it happened.
Farmer's market was an issue. We did discuss farmer's market. I didn't remember that.
Okay. We just, GMA's listed in here in the morning of each day.
Yeah, I think, what was it, is it Rotary or, I know Tom Leonard always walks around and picks up the trash and
Yeah,
stuff.
whichever one,
Food club. Food club takes care of everything in the day. GMA comes in the morning. Hoop club,
Oh,
basketball.
Hoop Club, yes, that would be common, that's what.
right, but by taking care of it, they put it in the dumpster, and then the dumpster starts to overflow.
You're talking about the problem was the dumpsters were overflowing.
Yeah, you couldn't empty any more trash cans because the dumpster was full. So, I mean, you can have people show up and fill the dumpster, but once that's full.
Should we request an additional, like,
Second dumpster?
for the weekend or recommend?
Making sure that they have,
Proper trash.
so recommend the approval, but make sure they have proper trash capacity.
Do we know how many they had last year? Because they list how many they will have this year.
I don't know if they ever submitted that last year.
We don't have information.
They don't have a quantity.
Well, we could ask them to increase what, because they'll have their quantity, they'll know what they provided, and if that wasn't quite enough, they
Two
could,
plays,
like,
3
double
large,
it.
120.
Not
Oh, so like two dumpsters, looks like 2 plates, I'm assuming that's the dumpster. 3 large rolling, that's for sure. Oh, the rolling ones. And then the cans, so we're going to have a third larger capacity.
In the food court? Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
Yeah.
Closer to the
Yeah.
border.
Food court was the big issue.
Maybe, if there's some space in the food court, because multiple people maybe can go closer to the bathrooms. Like,
4th of July, too, was another 4th.
I'm sure
The event
that, we'll get that from us.
So does anyone want to make a recommendation with also an added dumpster?
Are there also recycling bins in the park?
I think there is.
Is there?
I think they bring them in, don't they? I feel like there's recycling
Not.
cans.
Like, yeah, like the regular
The
ones, like
regular
the
size
ones
garbage cans,
versus
there's-
what, yeah.
I think what the problem is, like, Gina doesn't offer recycling
Yeah.
services, so
And
they would have to be up to.
People don't respect the basic recycling rules.
There's just
Number one
like
thing.
garbage in there. If
Yeah.
they're full, their bins are full of garbage. It's just all garbage.
I'm very pro recycling, but a lot of times you go to the recycle center and you look in there and it's not recyclable materials.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if they have.
That's also 20,000 people in town. Can't
Yeah.
control 20,000 people, 40,000 people, what is it? Lots of people.
Well, I'm still looking for a recommendation, if anyone's interested. Or,
Oh, yeah, that was good. Yeah, I'll make a recommendation that we approve their application with, as long as they consider trash disposal concerns.
do I
They don't
have-
necessarily have to place a second dumpster, but they can have Gina show it twice a day, or whatever the case may be.
Okay. And a second for anybody?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Anything further? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, with that, the motion to approve their permit passes. Other new business?
Harvestman.
Or Harvestman, sorry. I didn't know if we lumped those together.
No.
Okay. Harvest Moon, similar concept, different date.
I don't think there was.
Recommend to approve, so long as they, confidence of their trash management.
Okay. Second from anybody? All right. Any further discussion, thoughts on this? All right, with that, we'll move to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, with that, the motion passes. So other new business is June meeting location. Does everyone want to meet here still, or anyone want to meet at one of our hot destinations?
Ooh, Sunset Hill.
I think it's
Well, we could
like-
take a field trip.
Yeah.
Well, if we went to
Seamers.
Seamers.
We
we
could do
could-
Seamers. I think June, we should be safe. I mean, it was snowing this weekend, but,
All
so
right.
do Seamers.
Seamers for June.
Check out those trees.
Do we need to vote on that, or just an agreement?
Anybody wants to make a motion?
A motion. Second? I'll say. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, with that, we'll be meeting at Seamers for our June meeting. And we'll move on to some old business. Is there any pickleball updates?
Yeah, there is
All right.
some stuff, we got some stuff. So yeah, 40, 47, 48, 49, and 50. So we did have a topographic survey completed. Those who don't know what that is, it just helps us find the contours of the land. So what we needed with that is to figure out basically how much fill we would need to create a flat surface. So. It really just.
You need a plug-in mouse for the board.
Well, we did, and then it got, yeah, there's, yeah. I didn't think I was gonna need it, but I do. So yeah, so anyways, we had that done, so we know how much we have to bring in. Basically, I think so the pickleball club funded that, that didn't cost the city anything. So right now we're working in conjunction with the pickleball pickleball club was just kind of like trying to, first was find the common space, found a space on top of the hill before Seniors Beach, right off of Lakeview Drive, or Lakeview Avenue. It's pretty open for the most part. There'll be a little bit of tree clearing, but not too bad. We'll be able to maintain a lot of trees around, which is what pickleball wants. So we'll keep the wind down, right? Keep the natural habitat as best as we can up there. We've had to shift it just a little bit, just with, there's a huge slope up here, which when you visit the site, you can see, where like if we were to try to build it all the way up here, we'd be putting a lot of fill in this area. So we kind of readjusted that. So the long and short is what we came up with after meeting with the club. And actually, Harold and I went back out there after we did the survey, and then after meeting with the club, with what we kind of laid out, Harold and I kind of crudely laid out a space. We went above and beyond, so like 120 by 130 is roughly what the square will be. But we just basically went 140 by 140 just to take all the space. So basically, the crude drawing of there'll be a road that comes up, road / widening driveway, probably about 16 to 20 feet wide. North Lakeview Avenue here. We'll take this space here because if we go too much further up here, there's a big hill right here. So it'll be a safety issue. So coming here, there's already kind of a natural path. Then we basically follow the power line in, which is already all cleared up the power lines. And then there'll be some parking over here, and then basically like, angle parking along the road, and then the angle parking all the way along the road here. And then the courts would be over here. We have to first create a road so we can get in there and dump fill. So that's kind of our phase. Phase one of the project is get the road in. And by road I mean basically just kind of make sure it's kind of leveled off, bring in some gravel so we can drive on it, and then just start basically stockpiling dirt. We have a lot of road projects, or a few road projects this summer. We might be able to utilize some of that material, so that's kind of why we want to get going on this, so we utilize that. The other stuff will kind of come along as we find time to clear some trees and fill the net space. So what I want to do before we move too far forward with this is a recommendation that we can send to the council on, I guess, get this, I'll call it phase one of the project moving forward. So we have approval for that to continue the exploratory process of pickleball courts.
And what's the arrangement for this land and pickleball? Will they be leasing like our other parks?
So so the eventual plan here, once we get, bringing the dirt in and things like that, once we kind of get moving forward with the actual project as a whole, we would want to enter into some sort of agreement with them, of course, right? They basically will be funding the majority of it, and then we will probably seek culture, tourism, AAA grant, which gives you between 10 and 20 grand roughly. That's what most pickleball courts are getting. And then what the city would basically do would be providing internet services to help with the construction, that type of thing. And then they would have to hire a contractor to do the actual courts and everything. So we would do something very similar to what we did with the dog park, right? So the dog park is that here's the land. We have some stuff here, but it's kind of up to you to take care of everything else, right? We'll help you with some things here and there. It would be very similar to that. We'll provide you the space. Here we would be providing some extra services as far as land preparation and things like that. But then, we'll lease you the space to have the pickleball courts. Have some sort of understanding in that lease of, here's the hours that you guys get, and then there's going to be public hours, things like that. The public's still going to be welcome here.
And then what about, so I talk to these pickleball people all the time. In fact, I talked to one last week who didn't even know this project was in the works. He was surprised and very excited about it. When I asked him how long he foresees pickleball being a trend, he said forever, just like bowling and hula hoops, I'm sure. they all seem to be very convinced that it's going to be around forever. If by chance it's not, what sort of future opportunities do we have for this? And say they abandon it, kind of like the courts, the tennis courts at the college. What becomes of it at that point? And is there any kind of planning that's required now to ensure that it can be, you know, repurposed or serve a purpose other than an empty lot?
Yep, so that's one thing, when the actual, like, what the owner of the company that came up that does these courts, the reason that we ended up going with more of a square design versus the rectangular design, there's a couple of reasons. One is it's less land encompassing, you know, aren't spread out as far. Fencing isn't, it's not as much fencing because you're kind of dual using fencing with the square. And then the way it would be laid out is, the way he designs the courts is they're adaptable. So like for some reason, again, don't see this happening, but if built the wall like 5-10 years, it's like, oh man, you know, there's just a handful of people doing it, right? So we only need like 1 or 2 courts, we don't need 6. They can modify and change these to tennis courts or basketball courts, or you know, maybe there's some other sort of courts for it at that point. They're changeable at that point.
Which is just what you wanted.
Exactly, that's what I want to make sure. So when the zucchini ball comes along.
Exactly, as well as
We'll have a place to
anyone,
play zucchini ball.
You know,
anyone
Squash
interested in making a recommendation to take this on to council, to start with kind of phase 1?
Looks like a motion by Jill.
All right, by Joe, and second by anybody else? All right, and with that, we'll open it up for discussion. Any thoughts or discussions over taking this to council?
I think it's a great idea.
Cool, thanks, Adam. Hearing that, we'll bring it to a vote. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, with that, the motion passes. All right, next up, Alyssa and Pillow Rock.
I don't really know what, so I've never seen the email from Abby that Abby sent out, that wasn't to me. But pages 53 is an email I sent in 2024. This things get done super quick here, right? That's in the morning. So 53, 54 is just an overall picture of Pillow Rock and all the posts that are there, if you guys haven't been out there. The sign is dilapidated. The rock that's sitting there to the right of Pillow Rock is where the plaque used to be. The next page on 55 is that rock, and then 56 is just the top of that rock. You can kind of see the 4 corners of the old plaque was the brick out there. And that plaque, if we talked about putting something back in that spot, and that's 20.5 inches by 15 inches. We wanted to replace it with something. Pull those poles out. I don't know what we all want to do in the area. We have new benches in there. Is there anything else we added? Just that bench.
yeah, just the bench.
And did we take the poles out yet? Are they still in there?
I think there's still
I think they're still there.
So we talked about taking out this sign completely and just doing something like this, taking all that out and just putting something on that. Like a new just hair on that rock. The 20-inch, 29-inch by 15-inch. Or we can make it a little bigger if we wanted to. But that's where it's kind of inset in. So we're not having all this stuff out here. It's just the rock is there. If you put up fencing, kids were jumping in there anyway. So you're not going to keep people off the rock. The rock has been there for millions of years. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
We're not picking it up and moving it into town like we were supposed to do 8 years ago.
How old is the rock?
Huh?
How old is the rock?
2.7.
2.7
2.7.
Okay, that falls under HPC.
That's just all HPC. No, I'm just kidding. So we had suggested a year and a half ago taking all those poles out, taking that sign down, leaving that open. The bench got put in then, and then replacing that little plaque on that rock right there, just with the information that we want about the place.
We take that as an
Simplify it.
official recommendation,
Yeah.
and someone else maybe want to follow up with a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any other discussions?
The funding,
The funding, was this something to bring to council? Like, really?
did we look into the cost of these plaques?
No.
It's
What,
like
we
a,
could
I thought
at
it was
least
like
get,
1,000.
it's a 20.5-inch by 15-inch plaque.
20.5 by what?
15, it's in the email.
I thought we had a number on that last year.
and we could get started with like the removal of the
It's
lease.
on page 53, Scott.
Right.
In that email, it's
Recommend
Okay.
that here will direct the
Oh, yep.
the, where the maintenance crew, the white truck crew, that kind of Harold,
No, that's all for a plan, 2 years later.
Do we want to get, sorry, yeah, I mean, yeah, you want, so we want to take all that stuff out
yeah.
and then get a quote on.
We'll get a, yeah, well, we should come up with what we want on the plaque. And
Yeah.
we'll get a quote for that size plaque, and we can just put that back on that rock.
This is gonna be 2 motions. It's
So we
gonna
can
be-
start with the removal, at
The
least, and
removal.
then.
Removal of the
Yeah, so
current
removal.
fencing, the signs that
Yeah.
are there.
Let's add some brush trimming to that too. It's pretty gnarly. There's a nice grove in those pines behind that bench. Eventually, maybe a picnic table could go there, another grill.
Yeah, we talked.
I would not put a picnic table on the ground there. People live on that street and it's
Yeah.
only a block long and there's no place to park.
I
I
would
used to
just
live
do-
across
I
the
would
street.
just- I would keep it as,
No.
I would keep it as a bench, because
It's also
there's that little red road that goes through, people walk back there, so the bench is appropriate, but I don't think we should go anything further with
Okay,
that.
so clean it up and then we can I can get just rough quotes that we can bring to the next meeting and then we can figure out what we want about.
Yeah,
All right.
for that size plaque,
Can I volunteer to come up with a plan?
absolutely.
We would.
My husband is a geologist
Oh,
and lived across the street around
Absolutely.
this park
There you
from
go.
this for
Oh, it's
15
right
years.
over there.
We
See?
needed
We
this.
have very many memories on
You
top
like,
of
you
that.
are very passionate about this, so I'm gonna.
Yeah.
You're gonna pass the torch?
I already asked him, I was like, so.
I didn't
what
try
do
to
you
do it.
now?"
I know, I appreciate it.
I have to go to
We
graduation.
skipped you in just in time.
Let's go to graduation.
Okay, so you.
Because it's not correct information, so.
Removal of the old stuff.
Yeah.
Yep, so we got the motion to remove the old stuff, so you want to vote on that? So we
Well,
can-
we need the,
Yeah.
we get the second.
Yeah, I saw this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the
Okay.
second.
Yep,
So
yep,
then
yep.
let's, all right, so we've discussed, so then let's vote on it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Good,
All right.
good. Thank you.
And the motion passes, and someone would like to maybe make a second motion?
I would like to make a motion that Tara pursue the cost and
Well, no, he's.
Context.
No,
I didn't
No, no,
Context.
no, she's doing the context.
I didn't contest.
Don't pass too much
So,
on content.
the second motion is gonna be, cost of the sign and content for the new sign, and the plaque to go on where the original one was.
seek out
And it
cost.
has to be within the 20, if it's in this size. We
So,
want it within that size. Because it used to just sit on here flat.
yeah,
You want flat?
so,
Can you get a spot to set up here?
so it is
It will
kind
sit
of
up.
indented.
Yeah, because it used to be flat.
Well, we can do it bigger and just off the rocks, or we can do it.
Any can.
Well, it raises the value of vehicles the more.
That's
coverage you
okay,
got.
whatever you feel is.
I'm gonna make a couple of recommendations.
Yeah, bring us a couple
Thank
things
you.
that we should.
Yeah, who seconded the motion?
Well, first of all, what is the motion? The motion is to pursue,
I gotta go to.
pursue,
How about, can the motion be that I come back with options for what the sign could look like, and we choose one, and then Scott would go for the cost?
Well, we don't, yeah, this doesn't even have to be a motion. How about
Or would we just-
project? How about just Sarah will do some
No,
research?
It's Kevin, that's my
Or
husband.
Kevin, yeah,
He doesn't have to do the research, he will just
Both
write
we,
it.
right? So
Sometimes
she'll
it's
say
this.
that she'll just take, we don't have to.
All right, so we'll put this on for our whole business forever, not just joking, until next time.
is it,
I was
We
joking.
gotta get things checked.
it's
out.
cost per letter though, I believe, right? Isn't that why all the gravestones were RIP because nobody wanted to pay?
That's a headstone, that's.
Yeah, this is
Right.
different.
This is a
But-
plaque.
No,
This doesn't have to be, it
Cost
also
per
doesn't
letter.
have to be flat like this, like it was, like it can be like, it can be
Right.
vertical so people can see it. This is just
Yeah.
We're gonna,
With braille underneath.
So Kevin has homework, Ken.
yeah. So we'll pass this on to Kevin, so we can have some correct geological information. And so, with that, we'll move on to our budget.
Did anyone have anything else to add on that?
Any
Did
comments?
we talk about the improvements at Whiteside? Are we going to be talking about the improvements?
Yeah, briefly, they're gonna probably come next month, so.
So, and that's gonna fall outside of the budget because that's being taken care of.
Oh, yeah, because that's what the updating of the electric.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, the one thing I did want to note, okay, so with budget, I think we kind of talked about what stuff was last time compared to this year. I did have some discussion with other city staff as far as our rental fees, potentially, maybe we look at the event license, we have that event license, right, which is a fee. But then, you know, for example, to basically rent all of Whiteside Park, so all 3 spaces, it's $30 per space, so it's $90 per day, which is pretty cheap, if you think about it. They do pay utilities separate, so they get billed separately. It's like for the venues for electrical, so they meter that. So they get billed separately for the meters. But any park fees that we, you know, for Steamers, Whiteside, or the rec center, all go back into the park and rec budget.
Yeah, that seems like something that could be, especially for I'm very pro like these big events, but those are very affordable for what they're probably generating, which could have better kickback to maybe our budget.
And we do, I mean, the city does provide a lot of in-kind services for these events. So, you know, kind of take that into consideration as well. For setup, you know, like that whole, kind of like Blueberry, that whole week, you know, they're making sure the grass is perfect, they're making, they bring stuff in, bring extra stuff in.
So who would the rent to affect it? Just like Matt and his pizza truck? Like, it would no longer
Oh, so
be.
that would, well.
Is that, like, what is the?
That would be,
what are the-
no, that is under the, it's actually, I don't know if did I include the whole?
I don't think it's in here, but it's the
That
vendor.
would actually be under, or not transient, or like that, that's under the food truck license, so that's a different, that's a separate.
So even if he's parked at the park and use the park,
Yeah,
it's not.
That's a separate fee based off of the food truck license, not park rental.
So who are the other people who rent the park besides the festival?
So Blueberry, Harvest Moon, 4th of July, Farmers Market. Farmers Market is a big one. They have, how many weeks? 8, 12, 10. We get a lot of just random people.
Rock the Park,
rent
the church
pavilion
groups that
or-
do the musicals, you got NLAA's Broadway in the Park, you
Yep.
got, oh, the kids, Young Life, don't
Young
they do
Life.
Young Life, Young,
You know, this would also be Steamers, so we host a lot of grad parties down at Steamers. And we've talked about needing to update some, you know, interior stuff there, exterior down there.
When you rent Steamers, you just rent the pavilion, right?
Yeah.
So if you rent the physical building, if you're renting Steamers, and
Only
you
rent
can
the
use the
physical
pavilion
building.
when they want.
Yeah,
That
it just says, yeah, it says park pavilion rental, but
It means the
that
physical
means
building.
the actual enclosed building, yes, not the.
I think you can't charge more than you do right now without it looking better.
That was just, and I wasn't looking for a decision, right, but that just kind of fell back in line with the budget, knowing that these rental fees feed back into the budget for park and rec. So one of those kind of like, and then same with the rec center too.
Okay.
You know, I would certainly, before we did any sort of fee raising, I would certainly look at comparables and things like that.
Are we going to rent the Trailhead Building?
stuff, the event license, so
Without having that discussion,
120 is,
the Trailhead originally was not meant to be
It's a
rented.
public,
Okay.
so if you rented it or whatever.
So there was no
you
rental.
still should be allowed to use it, because it's like, yeah,
what we,
But that is also one of those we don't know yet.
yeah.
So we are looking at expanding. Currently our food truck designated spots don't include the Trailhead, but we want to include that. Obviously that makes sense, right? But yeah,
Well, I guess it makes sense. If people are gonna rent the Trailhead for why would you just have a food truck at the Trailhead? Unless it was an event.
Like the Sabi Trail, for example, they're doing it in Barris this year, but a couple of years ago they had it in Ely, so if they had to have a food truck at the finish line, people could, or there was the dog sled event.
or just
Or just
that's
you wanted
a
to be
place
out
that they
there
want to
Friday
set up.
night because people are biking and you want to post up there to get those hungry recreators. I love some food when I've done that.
But I think there was more talk about having, because before the chamber finalized moving over there was a usable space, right? Where we could have had tables and stuff in there. Right now, it's really, that building is max occupancy at 50, you know, so and that common area isn't conducive to have a a table with 50 people sitting up.
No, there's
You know,
more
that's for the
people.
whole building.
Yeah.
So there was, again, I think, you know, kind of goes back to, I think what Alyssa brought up is, you know, again, that whole list is really great of stuff, but it's not stuff that's gonna happen tomorrow. And again, you kind of have to have a flow with the building and see what the needs are over the next year or two. And yeah, we can add, you know, bring the stuff over from the old one, add a few things, you know, some safety stuff like the rugs or whatever causing issues, sure. But I think some of this other stuff that obviously, you know, we looked at the electronic kiosk, 10 to 20 grand, you know, and that's not just gonna happen overnight.
Yeah, that would be like.
Stuff, but
grand.
again, I think as we, you know, as we see what the building needs are, you know, again, I think, having people utilize the outside space, I think is what, really what we want to see, so that people don't necessarily have to rent it. They can just use the outside space if they want to have a club gathering or something, but then they can use the bathrooms and everything inside.
If they were having a big club gathering or something like that, they need to reserve it, if not rent it, so there wouldn't be 700 people there?
So that's the thing, there is no allowable rental of the building.
Well, I mean outside, I'm saying outside. Because if you suddenly have, like, if there's an event that's gonna happen, and then people are still like accessing it,
Then that would be
and then
that
there's
event
like
permit.
300 people there.
Yep. Then that would be that event permit, so like,
Okay,
sled
got
dog
it.
race could be a big event permit.
Got it.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep. Yeah, you weren't here for that, sorry.
Okay.
Any other budget thoughts, or should we move on to the Truzona Trail?
Just the first question I had, are we going to be accounting for any of those repairs in the budget, or is that all going to be taken care of by
Or,
the band shell?
that's what we just, I'm hoping next time they can, I did make a note.
Because they only had up to 2,000, was it?
So the electrical upgrades we are doing, because that's partially on our end, so that's through our utilities. Let's see. So yeah, Ely Events Group is interested in contributing financially for some of the projects.
And the rest we have available in the budget.
Well, for the electrical, but the rest we haven't approved anything else as far as this other. I think the electrical is more of a need, the rest is kind of like, this would be nice.
Door down there is missing a lock. Band shell?
In that factory, yeah. So yeah, I'm hoping they can come to the next meeting and kind of present something.
You'll let them know what it seems.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so then for the Truzona Trail, it looks like the kiosk for the Masabi.
We had mentioned this last time, it was
Yeah.
basically, I didn't get any emails from anybody, if anybody had any,
So no updates yet?
No, but I mean, does anybody have anything that they want to pass along? Because they're wanting that by the 15th. Yep, May 15th.
Yeah.
I guess if there's anything that people really want to see, let me know. We can pass it
All right, and then were we kind of already touching on the Whiteside Park improvements under the budget? Or was this a separate thing?
Yeah, there's nothing new, I guess, at this time. So hopefully they can come in.
The grills are going in?
The grills, yes.
Yeah, they're not in yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
They
and
still have
then,
enforcement for those, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they got locates called in, so they'll be doing those soon.
all right, and then for our annual Trailhead gathering, we're still,
You're down a member for you.
It was you and Jill, right?
I know, I'm down members, so if anyone's interested
Oh,
in
that's
being
right.
a part
You
of
guys on that,
the annual Trailhead Gathering Club, where we'll just talk about having a little, it'll be our first annual, because we had the grand opening last year. We're gonna get waiting on some dates from the school, so we maybe have less conflict of interest
Yeah,
in August.
Why don't you talk a little bit more about it? So it's in August. Tell how did it go last year, what took place?
Last year, we had, I believe, like ATV club, was it snowmobile?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
Canoe
groomers, yeah.
club, a lot of different local trail clubs came and like set up a little information about their spot. I think we had a food truck.
Yeah,
Couple.
couple.
Yeah,
3.
and have a little party to celebrate this new awesome building.
We'd like to add music perhaps.
We proposed
Resigned.
maybe like have a band or something, so.
And
Sounds like you really want to be on the club committee, so
No, I'm trying
we're gonna
I'm trying to
hold
book
you
a
in.
gig.
conflict of interest, let's stay out there.
Alright.
But I think Tim's interested.
Cool. I'll make sure.
I'm in a master's for hospitality and tourism right now
Oh,
too, so
yeah,
that's
You're-
kind of right up my alley.
yeah.
The last class I was just in was all about designing events. And
All right, so let's
We need
add,
someone with your
add Tim
expertise.
to.
I'm not an event designer, so thank you.
Neither am I,
And
but I will do my
welcome.
best.
All right.
Thanks for
Well,
holding him.
we'll work with Jill and us three will come up with a little plan eventually, but we're gonna get some date ideas and maybe by June we'll have some more ideas. We'll see.
I think the biggest key is just no conflicting events.
Well, that's impossible, have no conflicting events, but we could have like the least
What
amount.
about Tuesday?
Yeah, okay. I'm sleeping then. All right, so we'll meet about those things. Do we want to review some goals and objectives?
Well, sounds like, we need to consider some kind of, some of the things that Frederica had mentioned earlier tonight should be, obviously considered just because they made sense. Could you repeat a few of those things that you said aren't on this list that?
Well, one of the things again is birding, okay? It's a passive, and other passive low impact activities, but basically the birding, setting up signage, if you will, where bird viewing sites are, and you can work with Bill Teff and others on even doing more, and you probably get people to volunteer, but I'd say the birding, and then also part of that with the birding is, with the quiet areas, which is also part of a mental health that I need, and healing atmosphere. So somehow putting that in there, and the other was here that you have down here. It says the second one, continue to work with planning and zoning to establish city nature preserves, green space, and expectations for new developments. I would include on that the conditional use permits, and then also a thing on shorelines, because this is really crucial, not just for the loons, but for other aquatic birds and stuff like that. And then also on that, I'm thinking in my mind, alternatives, again, talking about the natural spaces, and I'll just say this like in the pickleball, that you're going to rip up trees and put a road in to put it there. Are there alternatives to raping nature? I don't know, that old Ford building, just for example, we have a lot of vacant, neglected, blighted buildings, and there's that huge block of a building where the homeless gather. Is that enough space to use for a pickleball court? I'm just saying, when you look at all that things, think of alternatives. Instead of taking up more space, taking away nature and a few other things, what do we already have in downtown for people to come downtown and shop, mainly businesses? So again, alternatives to ripping up land, alternatives to taking away natural habitat, and you can say bird viewing or whatever. So
I wrote habitat,
So,
yeah.
thanks.
Consideration of natural wildlife and habitat.
I was gonna say wildlife.
Wildlife, yeah.
And as I say, alternatives. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add to our short-term, mid-term, long-term goal stuff? All right, well, we'll continue to review those because you never know when we're going to have some more ideas and maximum Frederica's input. And then I think we have the Trailhead walking trail from Ozzy.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, anybody, he's gonna just do some small presentation,
Is that
Sunday.
tomorrow?
This Sunday, yep.
The date wasn't written on
Is
here.
that it?
I couldn't find it.
Yeah, sorry, May 17th, which is Sunday, I hope.
It is.
It was in a different email. For some reason I thought it was in an email. So yeah, again, just an informative, he's just gonna be outside of the building, the Trailhead Building, they're gonna be in the parking lot or whatever. And then I think they'll probably show the trail. So I did have the opportunity to walk the trail with them today.
It's wild.
It's like,
It's wild.
yeah, I was thinking like, originally we had always been talking like bog walk, right? And I'm like, oh, Lord, right? Bog walk. This is like walking, to me, this is like very similar to like walking in the falls.
Yeah.
The power hill.
There's a couple of wet
It's
spots.
just, there's a couple wet spots, so we had that land delineated back in 2018 because of the construction for the trailhead building, so that's a positive, that's already all been done, so I have all of that information now. And yeah, it's a very much of a pretty much natural path that's already there. So there, basically what needs to be done is clear dead trees that are just laying over the trail. So it's literally just picking up the branches and moving them off the trail and trimming up a few trees that maybe are in the way or whatever. But it's very minimal. There's right when you get onto the trail, there's a really huge white pine. Right? When you get into the woods, it's really cool. So even when we talked about, having a space that's dog friendly and a picnic in the shade friendly, and as soon as you walk, so the trail enters, for those that don't know, right behind the new car chargers that are operational. There you immediately come in and there's kind of this open space in the woods where you can easily put a picnic table or whatever, and then have an area where people can have let their dogs out. So let's say they just want to stop, get out quick, do that. There could be a garbage can there, put their garbage in, and then they can go back and get on their merry way. If you want to continue and have a little nice naturesque walk, you continue across the ATV trail, you kind of meander around, go past a makeshift camp of some sort.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
lot of
it's kind of wild.
tennis.
So then you do go out into this bog where it's kind of wet, on the lower side of the hill, where then there would have to be some sort of, bog walk or, just similar again like Fall Lake has, where they've got, a couple feet, 20, 30 feet of wooden planks basically. Then you meander around and you come back up a hill. There's a really nice rock face that you walk by. There's a nice root wall to it, one point in that walk that you can see. And then you get up on the hill, and then yeah, you're back. You're kind of open, and then you kind of get back in the woods, and it meanders around. And eventually, what he was talking about is they're looking at doing a connector trail to the Bear Center. That's beyond the power line, so the city limits is roughly right in that area, and then it basically loops back with the loop that loops back is on the upper edge of the hill, and there's just one small, maybe 20-foot wide section that there's just a slight little stream of water that comes through there. That would have to have a boardwalk. Otherwise, the upper section is much drier. So even in the initial stages, we talked about maybe just being allowed to get the trail work just on that upper section until we figure out, what else we have to do with the lower section. So I started talking with North St. Louis County Soil and Water to see exactly what we have to do. The DNR did say today that we don't have to have any permits because there's no public waterways that go through there. So the DNR has no permitting process. As long as we don't seek any federal grants, we don't have to do a bunch of red tape like we had to do with the mountain bike trails that we continue to deal with. We're just making enough of a walking path, which is already pretty natural in there. They did a really good job of flagging it out. I told them, I said today, you did the hardest work, you flagged it out. Like, it's neat to figure out where the actual path goes, and the rest is just, like I said, a lot of it is just picking up dead trees and dead branches and just moving them out of the way. They're not going to go in, they're not going to fill anything. Again, it's all going to be pretty much through the natural topography. So what I told him, again, kind of like the pickleball courts, is in order to move forward with this process, I think we should have some sort of recommendation to the council to know what's going on and allow this to move forward. There's potential that they could seek a grant, more for just the signage, and then their biggest expense is the wood to purchase for these boardwalks. Otherwise, they have volunteers to do the trail work. I did throw you under the bus, Jill, and said that maybe ECR would be interested in helping. I said, you guys seem to do all those projects, and he thought that you guys even maybe someday use that lot back there sometimes.
Well, that could be a really cool project for outdoor home.
Yes, and that's what I said. And because when you get that initial, have you watched the whole loop?
Yeah.
When you get to that, almost to the end of the initial loop, you know, you get on top and you kind of have this big open space. We even talked about like if there was a way to put a picnic table or even, I don't know if we want to do a fire pit, but something of that where you could have a gathering space then go back, real kind of nice little space, have lunch, do whatever, and then you can continue to track around. But there's a lot of opportunity, and like I said, it really, the hardest work is actually probably just getting bags to fill with garbage.
Maybe a latrine.
There's like a camp almost, it looks like that's out there.
There's like 2 makeshift camps, yeah, and then just some really old metal barrels. And luckily that stuff is somewhat close to the road. So
Oh, yeah, so
it's
you
where
definitely
get that
get it
out
up
of
and out there.
there. So it would also just be nice to have groups that would be willing to keep that area clean.
Yeah,
You know?
because once it's clean and people are using it, then people are more likely to keep it clean. But if you go onto that trail, like if they just made the trail and left it as is, then people would be like, oh, who cares if I left my Coke bottle? Or, you know, like a little, people treat things nicer and leave no trace if they see there's no trace in the first place.
And we talk about nature, like that would be a perfect area. I mean, we saw a rabbit lair up there, there's trail strumming. I mean, I'm sure you probably see moose through there at some point. So that would be a perfect, you know, nature space as far as preserving that.
So we're looking for like a recommendation to,
Work with the North Country Trail Association on the whatever, trailhead walking trail. We have.
Have they identified their grant source that they're requesting from? Because we could tie in a letter of support also.
well, I think the grant, depending on what you were saying with the grant, that could actually put up more red flags to actually get the trail done.
This other grant would be the local one. It's the one that they just had for projects, and now I don't have it on the top of my head.
It's just mainly a signage grant type of thing.
Well, it's just a general grant. It's a trails grant through, it's the local trails grant. They got it, they received it several years ago to purchase a trailer for all of their equipment. So they've done it. Nonprofits can apply. The city doesn't
Oh,
have to
okay, so
apply.
this is something like the North Country Trail.
They could apply.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if needed, we can provide a letter of support.
But yeah, we could. But more right now, we're more looking for the recommendation to move forward with the process of this trail and the city, allowing them to utilize the city lines and build this trail.
Would anyone like to make a recommendation? Motion. Second from anybody? All right, any more discussion?
I have a question. So
Yeah.
it's starting in city and then it goes on to public land or
I think
It's all city owned.
it's all city owned?
Yep, so the portion that we're concerned with, yeah, sorry, I didn't include the original map that he had presented, but, yes, it's all, the area that we're talking was all city owned.
Okay. I was just concerned about people going hunting or whatever.
So people do definitely hunt back there, right? And, they're not supposed to, obviously. So I think what a lot of people actually do is they use it to access, because the power line's right back there, so they access the power line trail and they hunt that area. Just beyond the power line is then, it's federal, not city-owned land. So I think the majority of the people are using that trail system right now to just access their area. But yeah, there's definitely, I'm sure, people that are illegally hunting back there and they're not supposed to. So I think actually having that designated and signed letter will also deter that.
Any other thoughts, discussion? All right, we'll bring it to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, with that, the motion passes, and we've made it through our very long agenda.
You adjourned?
Meeting will adjourn 6:50. Thanks to people for joining. So this was an adventure.